Exchange Park in Decatur, Georgia, stands as a place of contradictions. By day, it's filled with laughter, joggers, and families enjoying nature's embrace. But in November 2019, this peaceful sanctuary became something else entirely, the final resting place for 21-year-old Alexis Crawford. Her body, discarded in a plastic bin among the trees, was discovered after a desperate week-long search that captured national attention. The location was shocking enough, but what truly horrified investigators wasn't where they found her, but who led them there. Jordan Jones, Alexis's own roommate. The betrayal cuts deeper than most murder cases. How does someone transition from trusted friend to killer? What transforms a person who shares your living space, your meals, your secrets, into someone capable of taking your life? This isn't just a story about murder. It's about the ultimate betrayal of trust. Alexis Crawford was a senior at Clark Atlanta University studying criminal justice. She was ambitious, loving, and surrounded by a family who adored her. She did everything right, even reporting a sexual assault that occurred in her apartment just days before her disappearance. Yet somehow, the systems designed to protect her failed, and the person she should have been able to trust most became her executioner. As we explore this devastating case, we'll examine not just what happened to Alexis, but why it happened and how similar tragedies might be prevented. We'll look at the warning signs that went unnoticed and the moments where intervention might have saved a young woman's life. Before we continue, I need to ask something important of you. Alexis can no longer speak for herself. She can no longer fight for justice or share her story, but we can do that for her. By engaging with this video, liking, commenting, and subscribing, you're helping ensure her story reaches those who need to hear it most. You're potentially saving lives by spreading awareness about the warning signs Alexis never had the chance to fully recognize. Will you join this mission? Take a moment now to subscribe and hit the notification bell, not just for content updates, but for Alexis, for every student living with roommates they trust implicitly, for every person who's reported an assault and continues to live in fear. Your simple action helps build a community dedicated to preventing such heartbreaking betrayals. Now, let's examine how Alexis Crawford, bright, beloved, and full of promise, fell victim to the people she should have been able to trust most. Born into a loving family in Athens, Georgia, Alexis Crawford grew up surrounded by the warmth of her 9 siblings in a household where family bonds ran deep. Her parents raised their children with strong values, emphasizing education, compassion, and determination, qualities that would define Alexis throughout her too brief life. Those who knew Alexis described her as naturally outgoing, with a laugh that could fill a room. She possessed that rare ability to make others feel instantly comfortable in her presence. Her mother, Tammy Crawford, would later recall their last FaceTime conversation with heartbreaking clarity. She seemed to be in good spirits and was laughing. This moment, preserved in memory, captures the essence of who Alexis was: joyful, connected, and full of life. In high school, Alexis distinguished herself as both academically focused and socially conscious. Her interest in justice wasn't just academic. It stemmed from a genuine desire to help others and make her community better. This passion eventually guided her toward criminal justice as her chosen field of study. When acceptance to Clark Atlanta University arrived, it represented the culmination of years of hard work and the beginning of even greater possibilities. As a historically Black institution known for academic excellence, Clark Atlanta offered Alexis the perfect environment to pursue her dreams. Her family celebrated this achievement, proud of their daughter for taking this significant step toward her future. On campus, Alexis quickly adapted to college life. She maintained strong grades while building a social circle that included her roommate, Jordan Jones. Professors noted her engagement in class discussions and her thoughtful approach to complex issues in criminal justice. One professor later commented that the irony wasn't lost on them: a student passionate about justice becoming the victim of such a profound injustice. Despite being away from home, Alexis maintained close ties with her family. Regular calls, texts, and visits kept her connected to her support system. Her younger sister Alexandria particularly looked forward to these connections, the sisters sharing dreams and plans for the future during their conversations. Financial realities meant Alexis worked part-time while pursuing her studies. This juggling act, balancing academics, work, and social life, demonstrated her remarkable work ethic. When she missed work unexpectedly in early November, her employers immediately knew something was wrong. Alexis was reliable, dedicated, not someone who would simply fail to show up. In her junior year, Alexis moved into an off-campus apartment with Jordan Jones. The decision seemed practical and safe. Sharing space with someone she considered a friend would provide companionship while splitting costs. Neither Alexis nor her family could have imagined this practical decision would ultimately lead to her death. As her senior year progressed, Alexis was beginning to look beyond graduation. She discussed internship possibilities and career paths with advisors. Some days she talked about working within the justice system. Other days she considered how her degree might help her advocate for vulnerable populations. Whatever path she ultimately chose, those who knew her had no doubt she would make a meaningful impact. This was Alexis Crawford, daughter, sister, student, friend, a young woman of 21 with dreams as vast as her potential, a life that deserved decades more of experiences, achievements, and joy, a life cut tragically short by those she trusted most. What began as a practical housing arrangement between Alexis Crawford and Jordan Jones evolved into what appeared to be a genuine friendship. The two young women, both pursuing their education at Clark Atlanta University, found in each other not just roommates, but confidants. Their relationship seemed to exemplify the bonds that often form during college years, connections that many expect to last a lifetime. Social media told the story of two friends enjoying the college experience together. Photos showed them at campus events, celebrating birthdays and creating the kinds of memories that define university life. They posed with matching smiles, arms around each other's shoulders, projecting an image of camaraderie and mutual affection that convinced everyone around them. The depth of their apparent friendship was such that Jordan became integrated into Alexis's family life. During holiday breaks, when returning home wasn't practical for Jordan, the Crawford family opened their doors. Jordan sat at their dinner table in Athens, exchanged gifts during celebrations, and was treated as an extension of their family circle. Alexis's parents embraced her, seeing in Jordan a positive presence in their daughter's life. To know that someone that they welcomed into their homes played a role in Alexis's death is all the more hurtful, Reverend Markle Hutchins would later say, speaking on behalf of the devastated Crawford family. This sentiment captures the profound betrayal that compounds their grief, not just the loss of their daughter, but the knowledge that someone they trusted contributed to that loss. Alexis occasionally referred to Jordan as her best friend, a term that carries significant weight. Best friends are those we trust with our vulnerabilities, our secrets, our safety. They're the people we turn to in times of crisis, the ones we expect to stand beside us when challenges arise. For Alexis, this trust would prove fatally misplaced. The dynamics between the roommates began to shift when Jordan started dating Baron Brantley. His presence in their apartment became increasingly common, altering the atmosphere of what had been the women's shared space. Friends later recalled noticing subtle changes in how Alexis and Jordan interacted when Brantley was around, though at the time, these shifts didn't raise serious concerns. Like many friendships, theirs had occasional tensions, roommate disagreements over household matters, schedule conflicts, and other minor issues arose, but nothing that suggested the horrific turn their relationship would take, or perhaps there were warning signs that went unrecognized. Moments of disrespect, concerning comments, or troubling behaviors dismissed as temporary frustrations. What's particularly striking about this friendship is how it appeared to function normally even as dangerous undercurrents developed. In the weeks before her death, Alexis continued to engage with Georgine in routine activities. They still shared rides, went shopping together, and maintained the outward appearance of roommates on good terms. This facade makes what followed all the more shocking. The transition from trusted friend to alleged murderer represents one of the most extreme betrayals imaginable. It forces us to question how well we truly know the people we call friends, and what capacity for harm might lie beneath familiar faces. The story of Alexis and Jordan serves as a stark reminder that friendship, one of life's most valued connections, can sometimes mask dangerous realities. It challenges us to consider the foundations upon which we build our trust in others and the vigilance required to protect ourselves, even among those we believe we know well. The evening of October 26, 2019, marked a devastating turning point in Alexis Crawford's life. What began as an ordinary night in her apartment transformed into the first act of a tragedy that would ultimately claim her life just days later. According to the police report Alexis filed, she had been drinking with Jordan Jones and Baron Brantley in their shared apartment. As the evening progressed and Alexis became intoxicated, something happened that would shatter her sense of safety in her own home. Alexis reported waking up disoriented in their shared bathroom. In her statement to police, she described finding Brantley standing over her and experiencing what the report clinically termed unwanted kissing and touching. This bureaucratic language fails to capture the violation and trauma of sexual assault, the profound breach of personal boundaries and bodily autonomy that Alexis experienced that night. Despite the fear and confusion that often follows such violations, Alexis took action. She went to the police and formally reported the assault. Officers took her statement and collected evidence from the scene, including bedding and underwear. Following protocol, Alexis was taken to a local hospital where medical professionals administered a rape kit, an invasive but necessary procedure for gathering forensic evidence. In reporting the assault, Alexis did everything victims are encouraged to do. She spoke up, she sought help from authorities, she participated in the evidence collection process. She took every correct step that advocates and law enforcement recommend. Yet despite these actions, a critical gap remained in the response to her report. Alexis continued living in the same apartment with Jordan Jones, whose boyfriend had allegedly assaulted her. Whether due to limited housing options, financial constraints, or simply not recognizing the potential danger, Alexis remained in proximity to both her alleged attacker and the woman who would later be implicated in her murder. The days following the assault report must have been excruciating for Alexis. According to police statements, she and Jordan were not on speaking terms during this time due to the incident. The tension in their apartment would have been palpable. Two women who once shared meals and confidences, now moving through shared spaces in strained silence. Imagine the courage required to return each day to the place where you were violated, to sleep under the same roof as someone who has sided with your attacker. Imagine the hypervigilance, the constant state of alert that would accompany such circumstances. This psychological burden alone is tremendous. Yet, Alexis continued attending classes and maintaining her responsibilities. This period between the assault report and her disappearance highlights a critical vulnerability in how society responds to sexual assault allegations. The focus often remains on reporting and evidence collection, with insufficient attention paid to the immediate safety needs of victims. Where do you go when your home no longer feels safe? How do you protect yourself when the threat has keys to your front door? For many victims, especially college students with limited financial resources, these questions have no easy answers. Campus housing may be fully occupied, emergency shelters may be at capacity, friends' couches offer only temporary solutions. The practical realities of finding safe alternative housing can be overwhelming, particularly while dealing with the trauma of assault. Alexis' situation demonstrates how these gaps in victim support can have fatal consequences. The system that encouraged her to report failed to ensure her safety after she did so. This failure would cost her life just days later, when the tension in the apartment escalated to violence. The sexual assault Alexis reported wasn't just a preceding event to her murder, it was the catalyst that set in motion the chain of events leading to her death. Understanding this connection is crucial for preventing similar tragedies and for recognizing how sexual violence and homicide can be linked through patterns of escalating harm and retaliation. On October 3, 2019, surveillance cameras captured what would be the last images of Alexis Crawford alive. The footage shows a seemingly ordinary moment, Jordan Jones driving Alexis to a liquor store near their apartment. Nothing in these images hints at the horror that would unfold within hours. Two young women on a routine errand, a scene playing out countless times across college campuses nationwide. According to court documents and later confessions, what happened after they returned to their apartment would shock even veteran detectives. Jones later told police that she and Alexis became involved in a physical altercation that night. The exact trigger for this fight remains unclear in public records. Was it directly related to the sexual assault report? Was it about Brantley? Or had tensions simply reached a breaking point after days of strained silence? What is documented with terrible clarity is that Baron Brantley joined this altercation. According to his own confession to investigators, he strangled Alexis Crawford until she stopped breathing. Court documents reveal that Jones participated by smothering Alexis with a plastic bag, ensuring she couldn't survive. The medical examiner would later confirm that Alexis died from asphyxiation. The brutality of this attack is difficult to comprehend. Alexis fought for her life in what should have been the safety of her own home, betrayed by her roommate and attacked by the man who had already violated her days earlier. One detail from the charges against Brantley suggests that during the attack, Alexis attempted to call for help, only to have Brantley prevent her from making that emergency call, a final denial of her chance for rescue. After ending Alexis's life, Jones and Brantley faced the evidence of their crime. Rather than contacting authorities or seeking help, they made the calculated decision to conceal what they had done. They placed Alexis's body in a plastic bin, loaded it into a vehicle, and drove approximately 11 miles to Exchange Park in Decatur. There, among the trees and undergrowth of the park, they disposed of Alexis Crawford's remains as if she were nothing more than waste to be discarded. This dehumanizing act speaks volumes about their state of mind, the complete disregard for the life they had taken and the person they had known. Returning to the apartment, they cleaned thoroughly, attempting to erase all evidence of their crime. They washed away blood, disposed of incriminating items, and prepared to act as if nothing unusual had occurred. Then they continued with their daily routines, attending classes, interacting with friends, maintaining the appearance of normalcy while Alexis's family began their desperate search. The next morning, October 31, when Alexis failed to attend classes or respond to messages, her family's concern quickly escalated. By November 1, they had officially reported her missing. For a week, they lived in agonizing uncertainty, hoping for her safe return while increasingly fearing the worst. During this week of searching, Jones maintained her deception. She participated in searches, expressed concern about her missing roommate, and continued the pretense of being Alexis's friend, all while knowing exactly what had happened and where Alexis's body lay. I need to pause here and ask you something important. As you're hearing Alexis' story, are you recognizing warning signs that might exist in your own life or the lives of people you care about? The red flags that preceded this tragedy weren't always obvious, but they were there. Have you noticed concerning behavior in relationships around you that you've dismissed? Are you watching from a community where resources for victims are readily available? Or is there work to be done where you live? Share your thoughts in the comments, and your insight might help someone else identify danger before it's too late. The final days of Alexis Crawford's life reveal how quickly situations can escalate from tension to deadly violence. They demonstrate how vulnerability after reporting sexual assault can increase when protective measures aren't in place. Most disturbingly, they show how those we trust most can sometimes pose the greatest threat to our safety. When Alexis Crawford was reported missing on November 1, 2019, her family was already consumed with worry. Their vibrant, loving daughter and sister had seemingly vanished without explanation. The search began immediately, with flyers distributed across campus and throughout Atlanta as authorities launched their investigation. Atlanta police officers interviewed Georgian Jones early in the investigation. Her story appeared straightforward. She claimed she had last seen Alexis on October 30 before going to bed. According to Jones, when she woke the next morning, Alexis was gone. She told investigators that she and Alexis weren't on speaking terms due to an unspecified incident, notably omitting the sexual assault report that Alexis had filed against her boyfriend just days earlier. This deliberate omission would later stand out as a significant red flag. Why wouldn't Jones mention such a relevant recent event when discussing her roommate's disappearance? The answer became clear as the investigation progressed. She was actively concealing her involvement in Alexis's death. As days passed without any sign of Alexis, her family made emotional public appeals. "I just want you to come home and be safe," her sister Alexandria said during a press conference, her voice breaking. "I hope God is walking with you, and please prevent any evil that comes her way. And we're here for you." The family didn't yet know that evil had already found Alexis in the form of those she had trusted. Meanwhile, Jones maintained her facade of concern. She joined search efforts and expressed worry about her missing roommate, all while knowing exactly what had happened to Alexis and where her body lay. This performance demonstrated a disturbing capacity for deception that shocked investigators when the truth finally emerged. The breakthrough in the case came on November 8th, when investigators confronted Baron Brantley with mounting inconsistencies in his and Jones's statements. The pressure of police questioning proved too much for Brantley. He confessed to strangling Alexis to death and led police to her body at Exchange Park in Decatur, approximately 11 miles from the apartment. When confronted with Brantley's confession, Jones also admitted her role in the murder. She led police to the same location where Alexis' body had been discarded a week earlier. The discovery confirmed the Crawford family's worst fears and brought a devastating end to their search. Atlanta Police Chief Erica Shields addressed the media with visible emotion. The case has come to one of the saddest conclusions possible and has been absolutely heartbreaking. Her sentiment reflected the impact this case had even on experienced law enforcement professionals. The investigation revealed disturbing details about the calculated nature of the crime. After killing Alexis, Jones and Brantley had methodically cleaned the apartment to remove evidence. They had transported her body a significant distance from campus to reduce the likelihood of discovery. They had created and maintained a consistent story about her disappearance, and they might have succeeded in their deception if not for the persistent work of investigators who identified the contradictions in their narrative. This wasn't a crime of sudden passion or momentary lapse in judgment. The evidence suggested premeditation, particularly troubling given the timing, just days after Alexis had reported Brantley for sexual assault. The connection between these events was impossible to ignore, suggesting a motive tied to silencing Alexis after her report. The medical examiner confirmed that Alexis died from asphyxiation, corroborating the confessions of both Jones and Brantley. Physical evidence collected from the apartment, despite their cleaning efforts, further supported the timeline and manner of death described in their statements. For investigators, the case represented a particularly disturbing example of betrayal. Detective Michael Young, who worked the case, later commented that crimes involving close relationships often present unique challenges precisely because of the trust that existed before the violence occurred. When someone is harmed by a stranger, there's often evidence of forced entry or struggle, he noted. When it's someone they know and trust, those indicators may be absent, making these cases particularly difficult to solve without confessions. In Alexis's case, the confessions provided the clarity that physical evidence alone might not have established. Without them, her family might have waited much longer for answers about what happened to their beloved daughter and sister. Following their confessions, on November 8, 2019, both Jordine Jones and Baron Brantley were promptly arrested and charged with malice murder. They were booked into the Fulton County Jail and held without bond, the first step in what would become a lengthy legal process for the accused and an agonizing journey toward justice for the Crawford family. In addition to the murder charge, Brantley faced 3 probation violations and a charge of hindering person making emergency telephone call. This last charge revealed a particularly heartbreaking detail. During the attack, Alexis had attempted to call for help, only to have Brantley prevent her from making that emergency call, a final denial of her chance for survival. Both Jones and Brantley waived their initial court appearances on Monday, November 11, 2019. Their court-appointed public defenders offered no immediate comment on the charges. The decision to waive these appearances is common in high-profile cases, often to avoid media attention or public scrutiny during the early stages of legal proceedings. The charges against Jones and Brantley reflected the severity of their actions. Malice murder in Georgia indicates a deliberate intention to take a life, carrying the possibility of life imprisonment or even the death penalty. For 2 young people barely into their 20s, their choices not only ended Alexis's life but also effectively destroyed their own futures. As the case moved through the justice system, prosecutors built their case methodically. The evidence was substantial: confessions from both defendants, physical evidence from the apartment despite their cleaning efforts, surveillance footage showing their movements, and the medical examiner's confirmation that Alexis died from asphyxiation. For the Crawford family, no verdict could bring back their daughter, but the pursuit of justice provided a necessary channel for their grief and anger. They attended court proceedings whenever possible, often wearing buttons with Alexis's photo, a visual reminder of the vibrant young woman whose life had been cut short. The case raised important questions about how the justice system handles sexual assault reports, particularly when the accused remains in proximity to the victim. Had Alexis's initial report about Brantley been handled differently, with more immediate protective measures put in place, she might still be alive today. This aspect of the case highlighted a critical gap in the response to sexual assault allegations. While the legal system is designed to presume innocence until guilt is proven, it must also ensure the safety of those who come forward with accusations. This delicate balance was tragically absent in Alexis's case. Legal experts who followed the case noted that temporary restraining orders or emergency housing accommodations might have created a buffer between Alexis and her alleged assailant. However, such measures are often underutilized or difficult to access, particularly for college students with limited resources and knowledge of available protections. The prosecution faced the task of establishing not just that Jones and Brantley had killed Alexis, but that they had done so with malice aforethought, the premeditation necessary for the most serious murder charge. Their confessions simplified this aspect of the case, though defense attorneys would later attempt to challenge the circumstances under which those confessions were obtained. For the detectives who worked the case, securing these confessions represented both a professional success and an emotional burden. Detective Jamila French, who interviewed Jones, later described the moment when Jones admitted her role in the murder. "There's no satisfaction in hearing someone confess to taking a life, especially the life of someone they once called friend. There's only the grim relief of knowing we can now provide answers to a grieving family." The justice system's response to Alexis Crawford's murder demonstrated both its strengths and limitations. While it successfully identified, apprehended, and charged her killers, it had failed to protect her when she first sought help after the alleged sexual assault. This contradiction, effective in punishment but insufficient in prevention, became a focal point for advocates calling for reforms in how sexual assault cases are handled. As the legal proceedings continued, the Crawford family established a scholarship in Alexis's name at Clark Atlanta University, ensuring that her legacy would include creating opportunities for other students pursuing criminal justice degrees, the field she had been studying when her life was taken. The murder of Alexis Crawford sent shockwaves through Clark Atlanta University and beyond. Students who had walked the same campus paths, attended the same classes, and harbored the same dreams as Alexis were confronted with the harsh reality that violence can touch anyone, even within the supposed safety of a college community. In the days following the discovery of Alexis's body, the university campus became a place of collective mourning. Spontaneous memorials appeared, flowers, candles, photos, and notes left in places Alexis had frequented. Students who had known her personally shared stories of her kindness and determination, while those who had never met her grappled with the proximity of such violence to their daily lives. The university organized a formal vigil where hundreds gathered to remember Alexis. Candles illuminated tearful faces as students, faculty, and community members struggled to process the tragedy. "This is not going to be about how she died or the evil that took her," said Rev. Markel Hutchins at her funeral. "Today we're going to celebrate Alexis Crawford's life." That funeral, originally planned for Hill Chapel Baptist Church in Athens, had to be moved to Cornerstone Church to accommodate the overwhelming number of people who came to pay their respects. The Clark Atlanta University Choir sang gospel music as mourners shared memories of a young woman whose life had touched so many. One friend stood before the gathered crowd and recalled conversations with Alexis about their futures. "I'm going to live our dreams that we made together and make you proud," she promised through tears. "Because at the end of the day, Lex was my sister, and I loved her like one." The impact of Alexis's death extended far beyond personal grief. It prompted important conversations about campus safety, particularly regarding the vulnerabilities students face when living with roommates. Universities across the country took note, reviewing their protocols for handling sexual assault reports and examining the support systems available to students in crisis. Clark Atlanta University responded by enhancing its resources for students experiencing harassment or assault. They expanded counseling services, created new emergency housing options for students who felt unsafe in their current living situations, and implemented additional training for staff on recognizing and responding to potential danger signs in student relationships. Other institutions followed suit, implementing more robust housing relocation programs for students who report safety concerns related to roommates or acquaintances. The tragedy became a catalyst for systemic changes designed to prevent similar situations in the future. The case also sparked broader societal discussions about the nature of friendship and betrayal. How well do we really know the people we call friends? What signs of danger do we miss or dismiss? These questions resonated far beyond Atlanta, touching communities everywhere and prompting many to reevaluate their own relationships. Local advocacy groups used the case to highlight the particular dangers that can follow sexual assault reporting. They emphasized the need for comprehensive safety planning that goes beyond the initial report, ensuring that victims have safe places to go when they feel threatened. Their message was clear: reporting is essential, but protection must follow that report. For students at Clark Atlanta University, the impact was deeply personal. Many reported feeling a new wariness about roommate relationships and increased vigilance about their personal safety. Others channeled their grief into activism, forming student groups dedicated to preventing sexual violence and supporting survivors. One such group, formed in Alexis's memory, created a buddy system for students who felt unsafe walking alone on campus or needed temporary housing after reporting threatening behavior. Their motto, "No one stands alone," reflected the lesson they had taken from Alexis's tragedy. Community protection requires active participation and awareness. In the wake of such a devastating loss, there emerged a determination to prevent similar events in the future. Alexis's story became a powerful catalyst for change, a painful reminder of the importance of taking sexual assault allegations seriously and ensuring that victims have safe places to go when they feel threatened. Perhaps the most meaningful impact came in the form of individual actions, students checking on friends more frequently, people being more willing to offer temporary housing to those in unsafe situations, communities becoming more attuned to the warning signs of potential violence. These small but significant changes represent Alexis's enduring legacy, a legacy of increased awareness and protection for those at risk. Alexis Crawford's story carries profound lessons about trust, safety, and the prevention of violence. Her tragedy illuminates critical warning signs that, if recognized, might save others from similar fates. First, we must acknowledge the vulnerability that follows sexual assault. When Alexis reported Brantley's assault, she took a brave step that many victims never take. But reporting alone wasn't enough to protect her. Victims need comprehensive safety plans that include alternative housing options, especially when the accused has access to their living space. Universities and colleges must develop robust protocols for immediately relocating students who report sexual assaults by roommates or their associates. No victim should have to choose between their education and their safety. This means having emergency housing available 24/7, with simplified access procedures that don't create additional barriers during crisis. Second, we must learn to recognize when relationships turn toxic. The deterioration of Alexis and Jordan's friendship following the assault report was a critical warning sign. When friends side with abusers over victims, when tension replaces trust, these are indicators that should never be ignored. For those witnessing such dynamics, intervention is key. Had someone, a friend, a family member, a university official, recognized the danger Alexis faced and helped her find alternative housing, her story might have ended differently. This requires us all to be more attentive to changes in relationships around us and more willing to offer concrete help, not just sympathy. Third, we must understand the psychology of betrayal. Jordan Jones wasn't a stranger to Alexis. She was someone Alexis trusted enough to live with, to introduce to her family. This kind of betrayal is particularly devastating because it undermines our fundamental need to trust others. Psychologists note that when betrayal comes from those closest to us, it can be more traumatic than harm from strangers because it shatters our sense of security in relationships. Recognizing the potential for betrayal doesn't mean living in constant suspicion, but it does mean taking threats and warning signs seriously, even when, perhaps especially when, they come from those we trust. Fourth, communities must create stronger support networks for individuals in danger. Friends, family members, classmates, and neighbors should offer unwavering support when someone reports sexual assault or harassment. Creating safe spaces for survivors to share their experiences without fear of judgment or retaliation is essential. This means believing victims when they come forward, offering practical assistance beyond just emotional support, and being willing to inconvenience ourselves to ensure their safety. A couch to sleep on for a few nights, a ride to appointments, or simply being physically present during a difficult time can make the difference between vulnerability and protection. Fifth, we must strengthen legal protections. Swift action against perpetrators of sexual violence can prevent escalation to more severe crimes. Alexis did everything right by reporting her assault, but the system failed to protect her from retaliation, the most extreme form of retaliation imaginable. Law enforcement agencies need specialized training in recognizing the potential for escalation after assault reports. Prosecutors should consider the vulnerability of victims when making decisions about restraining orders and protective measures. Judges should err on the side of caution when considering the safety needs of those who report sexual violence. Sixth, we need to address the particular vulnerabilities of college students. Young adults living away from home often lack the life experience to recognize dangerous situations developing. They may not know what resources are available or how to access them. They may fear that seeking help will disrupt their education or social standing. Universities have a special responsibility to create environments where students can seek help without fear of academic or social consequences. This means clear reporting procedures, confidential support services, and practical assistance with housing and safety planning. Seventh, we must acknowledge the role of bystanders. While we don't know if others were aware of the tensions between Alexis and her roommate after the assault report, it's likely that some signs were visible to friends, classmates, or neighbors. Bystander intervention training teaches people how to recognize potentially dangerous situations and intervene safely. These lessons come at an unbearable cost, but by learning from Alexis's story, we honor her memory and potentially save others from similar fates. Her life, cut tragically short, can still have meaning if it helps us create safer communities and more responsive systems for those at risk. The most important lesson may be the simplest. When someone tells you they feel unsafe, believe them. When they need help finding safety, provide it. When systems fail to protect them, advocate for change. These actions, taken collectively, create the safety net that Alexis Crawford deserved but never received. By implementing these lessons in our personal relationships, our communities, our educational institutions, and our legal systems, we can work toward a world where such betrayals become increasingly rare and where those who experience violence find protection before it's too late. As we come to the end of Alexis Crawford's story, we're left with profound grief for a life cut short and anger at the betrayal that ended it. But we also find purpose in ensuring her death was not in vain. Alexis was studying criminal justice because she wanted to make a difference in the world. Though her life was tragically abbreviated, her story continues to make that difference by educating others about the dangers of betrayal and the importance of protecting those who report sexual assault. At her funeral, the Clark Atlanta University Choir sang while friends and family celebrated the vibrant young woman they had loved. One friend promised to live out the dreams they had shared together. In a sense, we can all carry forward Alexis's dreams by working toward a world where such betrayals become increasingly rare. Remember Alexis Crawford, not just as a victim, but as a daughter, sister, friend, and student with dreams and ambitions. Remember her warm personality, her determination, her laughter during that last FaceTime call with her mother. And as you remember her, I ask you to take action. Your engagement with this video, liking, subscribing, sharing, and commenting helps ensure that Alexis's story reaches others who might need to hear it. Perhaps someone watching right now is in a situation similar to hers. Perhaps your share will be the warning they need. Beyond digital engagement, consider supporting organizations that help sexual assault victims find safe housing. Consider advocating for stronger protections for those who report assaults. Consider being the friend who believes, supports, and helps create safety plans when someone you know is in danger. Alexis Crawford should be alive today, pursuing her degree, laughing with her family, building her future. Instead, her story serves as a solemn reminder of what happens when warning signs go unheeded and victims remain unprotected. Subscribe now and join our community dedicated to sharing these crucial stories and preventing future tragedies. For Alexis, for justice, for change, because every life saved through awareness is a tribute to her memory.